Have you ever spent hours uploading your books to Amazon KDP, watching YouTube videos until 2 a.m., and wondered why you're still miles away from the income or the freedom that you want? For years, I thought the only answer to scaling up my KDP business was hustling harder, cranking out more titles, and filling every spare minute with work. Instead, all I got was burnout, overwhelm, and the sinking feeling of constantly being busy but never actually moving forward. If that is you, then you're about to learn why your time and productivity may be the single biggest thing that is holding you back from real KDP success, even more than the niches you choose or the ad strategies you take. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Sean. I made over $1.7 million in royalties from my own books, and now I try to help as many people as possible to also succeed with Amazon KDP. So in this video, I want to talk about the Amazon KDP habits that took me from zero to over $1.7 million in royalties. Now, since this is more of a mindset / habit type of video, which normally don't get a lot of views, I assume that not a lot of people will watch this video. However, for the few people who will actually watch it and also watch it till the end and implement the strategies, I'm pretty confident that it's going to help you a lot. So let's get right into it. So habit number one is you want to focus on one task at a time. Now, most people logically understand this, but they actually do not do it at all in real life. So from my 10-year plus of entrepreneurship, basically working for myself all day, every day, I would say that the biggest killer of productivity is task jumping. And task jumping is essentially, working on one task, and before you finish that one task, you start another task. You got a bunch of tabs open on your computer, and you're just switching between one after another. This will absolutely crush your productivity. You think it's actually better for your productivity because you're multitasking, right? But in fact, this resets your focus every couple minutes, every single time you switch. There's studies out there that tells you that it takes about 17 minutes or something like that for you to get back into the zone of focus, right? Every time you switch task. So if you're constantly switching, and you're delaying yourself to go back into focus 17 minutes at a time, depending on the amount of time you're switching tasks, you could literally just burn your entire day while never going into the zone of focus. Some people call this the flow state, the zone, whatever you want to call it. That's when you make the most amount of progress into your business. So if you're switching tasks again, you're just taking yourself out of that. So most publishers or most entrepreneurs in general, they're not lazy, right? They're just scattered. They're not focused. And that's the issue. So to combat this, what you want to do is to create focus blocks. So what are focus blocks? Well, focus blocks are essentially, a block of time that you dedicate to just doing one task or just work in general, right? A lot of people don't even have a time set aside to just work. You start working and then the kids call you, so you got to, go play with them or whatever, do something for them. And then you go back to working and you're like, oh, let me make coffee real quick. And you're just constantly going back and forth. And that's something that I'm guilty as well. I still do it to this day, and I got to, consciously take myself out of that and tell myself, okay, I'm setting up a 90-minute block that I'm only going to work. I'm going to do nothing else. So that's essentially which one is you want to create focus blocks, 1 to 2 hours of time that you set aside to just do that one task. And if your brain and your dopamine receptors are so messed up, like how I am, I used to be like that, and I still feel like I'm not the best, then focusing on, 60 minutes, 120 minutes is going to be very hard. Okay, so maybe you have to start off with just 30 minutes, 40 minutes, but this is something you can train your brain to slowly get better over time. Right now, I do 90-minute blocks and I take a little bit of break, and then I do another 90-minute and basically do this throughout the day. The best way to do this is to have a separate office where you basically designate that area to just work, right? So when you enter the room, you know that it's just for work. It's not for sleeping, like if you start working in your bedroom, which will make it harder because your brain thinks, oh, is this room for relaxing or is it for working? Because you're using it for both. Now, when I was broke, when I just got started, I literally had just a room with a bed and a desk. So I couldn't separate it, right? So I get it if you're in the similar situation, but at least try and be conscious about what you can do, right? If you have an area that you can just dedicate it to work with no distraction around, not even your phone in the same room, and you can start creating these focus blocks, that'll be the best thing. So this is how you do deep work, right? Again, being in the flow, being in the zone, or just doing deep work is all the same thing. But essentially, step one, you want to commit to a daily block or daily multiple focus blocks, even if it's the evenings or the weekend, whatever works for you. And then you want to pick one actionable publishing task that you work on per block. And you also want to be very specific on what you're going to do in that focus block. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to work on KDP, right, for the next 90 minutes, say something like, I will complete the competitor keyword research and shortlist 5 profitable niches or 5 profitable keywords. Or, in the next 90 minutes, I'm going to create 10 book titles or something like that, right? So be very specific. That will also help as well. Because if you say I'm going to create 10 titles, right, you'll feel bad if you don't hit that 10 titles by the end of the 90 minutes or the focus block. So that's your goal, right? You set the goal and you work hard to achieve that, right? But if you just say, I'm going to work on my KDP business for 90 minutes, you could literally just be like refreshing your dashboard for 90 minutes and you'll still technically did work on your KDP business. But as we all know, that's not going to move the needle forward. Like you're not going to make more money doing that, right? So again, you want to be very specific on what you're going to work on. Other examples could be if you're outlining, focus only on drafting your table of contents and the unique content ideas from one book. Again, this is very specific, or you can just do all the outline. These are just ideas. If you're in the publishing phase, you can focus on uploading just one book file and double checking the formatting and metadata and nothing else. If this doesn't take 90 minutes, you can obviously do other things. But again, these are just ideas. So the key is to make this a habit, right? This video is all about habits. So you need to make deep work a ritual or something that you do every day or whenever you work on your business, okay? It's not just a one-time thing. You're not going to work from just having scattered working hours or scattered focus throughout the week to setting aside the entire Sunday to having 12 hours of deep work. Like that's not possible from what I know of, okay? Your brain is just not ready to do a 12-hour in the zone focus if throughout the week you're just all over the place. It's much better if you can consistently do some sort of deep work every single day and train your brain up to eventually do something longer. By incorporating this habit, obviously you're going to be way more productive, way more focused. And over time, you'll see, the things that you do in your publishing business, such as your book launches, the keyword research, setting up your ads in half the time. You'll be able to do it in half the time or less because you're not going to have no wasted time or repeated effort. You're not going to start a task, get distracted, and then come back and now you need 17 minutes to focus again, right? You're not going to have that. So that is habit number 1. Habit number 2 is to learn how to manage stress. Again, guys, a lot of people will click away from this video because we're talking about these things and they're like, oh, I don't need this tip. I just want the secret ad setup strategy or the secret keyword that's always profitable. I don't need no mindset stuff. I don't need no productivity stuff. But the longer you're in entrepreneurship and business, basically trying to achieve success in general, you'll realize that these things are way more important than the actual like tips and tricks and stuff like that. This is the fundamental of everything. What I like to say is that if you feel like you don't need mindset training, you're the exact type of person that needs mindset training. So if you're still watching this and you're taking this seriously, then obviously you're at a good spot. But going back to the video, building a business is a lot to do with your mind, your mental state. You'll encounter a lot of obstacles. You're going to be very stressed a lot of times. You're learning a brand new skill, okay, which is going to take time and it's going to be very overwhelming in the beginning. And also you're going to constantly be problem solving. Like entrepreneurship is all about problem solving, right? You're going to encounter one problem, you're going to figure out how to solve it, and then there's another problem, and then you have to go and figure out how to solve it by yourself. No one is going to tell you what to do like in a job. So again, a lot of times this will lead to a lot of stress, right? And overwhelm, which I encounter a lot, especially in the beginning, but even to this day, 10 years later. So this is something that is unavoidable. It's going to happen constantly. And if you don't know how to manage stress, what's going to happen is you're going to just get overwhelmed and quit. I know people who got started with publishing, but then, for whatever reason, they got overwhelmed. Maybe the formatting step is too complicated. Maybe the email marketing, setting up your email list, because it's pretty technical, they get overwhelmed. And what happens is they start kind of lashing out because they're so stressed and so overwhelmed. And I see them start posting in a Facebook group like, oh, this isn't working, or, oh, it's too complicated, or start blaming other people. Like, I got people telling me that, oh, your video should be more comprehensive because this is too confusing and I don't like it, right? And they start, lashing out. And a lot of people just quit because it's too hard. But what's funny is some of those people take a step back, breathe a little bit, go take a walk or something, and then come back a day or two later and they look at the task from a fresh eye and they always eventually figure it out. Because if you keep trying, for a good amount of time, you're eventually going to figure it out, right? So they figure out how to set up the email list or figure out how to do formatting. It finally comes out okay. So anyways, if you don't know how to manage your stress, right, you can literally just quit every time you encounter an obstacle, which we don't want. To give you a personal story, my very first book that I uploaded, I couldn't figure out how to do HTML formatting because back in the day, your book description, when you upload to Amazon KDP, you had to do it in HTML formatting. Right now, people got it easy, man. Like you don't have to do HTML because the KDP uploading process, they already kind of format it for you, right? But back in the day, we had to do it. And it was super confusing because I had no idea how to code, right? Like I had no idea what those symbols meant. So, I had to learn how to do it. And I literally told this other guy that was in the Facebook group who was helping me, like, dude, I am so stressed. I almost just want to quit because this is pissing me off, right? That's how stressed I was, and my stress management skill was not as good as now. And I see many people experiencing the same thing. So going into the slides over here, this is why people quit, right? Burnout, stress, overthinking is a big one as well. A lot of people put too much pressure on thinking that they have to make it work, or if not, they're doomed, or, if not, they're a loser or whatever. So they just overthink so much and put so much pressure in having the very first book that they ever published to go and make $100,000 for them. And if not, then they're a failure and they quit, right? So you don't want to have that mindset. So these are silent killers that stop most people from launching more than just 1 or 2 books. Now, handling review slumps, negative feedbacks, those kind of things. And there are many other reasons on why you might get stressed in this business, right? But learning how to handle it is absolutely crucial if you want to succeed. So how do you do it? Again, it's very simple. Every time you get stressed, every time you get overwhelmed, you just got to remember that you can take a step back, right? You don't have to push through. It's okay to pause. So reset, reflect, refocus when you come back, and keep going. So just take a break a little bit, go for a walk, your stress level will go down, and then you come back and try again. So that's essentially where you want to do it, and constantly repeat that process. So this is how you build a simple stress management routine. Number 1, as I said a couple times already, once you encounter a problem, go and take a quick break, process it, and then you come back and figure out how to solve that problem. Now, meditation is a big one as well. I don't personally do like sit down meditations, but I do a lot of walks. I also, exercise a lot. So it's more of an active meditation for me. And I noticed that calms me down a lot. Another big one is mindfulness, right? So mindfulness, I think people use it in different ways. But for me, it's, using it to be more present in the moment. When I get so stressed, right, I'm only focusing on what's pissing me off at the moment, right? But I can step back, with mindfulness and be like, all right, cool, so I can kind of look at myself from a third person perspective and be like, all right, I'm stressed. Let me take a step back. So being able to mindfully kind of put yourself out there definitely does help. If you can do guided meditation and those kind of things, definitely can do that as well. And this is a big one, right? You want to unfollow or unsubscribe from medias or even, Facebook groups that are toxic, super negative. Like some Facebook groups in the KDP space, all they're doing is complaining about, KDP doesn't work, or, my account got terminated, or my books got blocked, and this and that. In reality, there's always a reason. If your account gets terminated, it is probably because you messed up. It's not because, KDP is a bad business, right? If your books get blocked, it's because the book sucks. It's because it's bad. Or it's because you're not compliant with the rules that they got, right? It's not because KDP is bad. Again, I've been doing this for like 9 years. I published hundreds of books. I never got terminated, right? I know many people who never got terminated. So from observing thousands of students, I can clearly see a pattern. If you do something wrong, you get terminated. If you don't do anything wrong, you don't get terminated. It's as simple as that, right? But if you're hanging out in these Facebook groups, reading these stories, people love to complain, people love to whine, on like, oh, this happened to me, this and that, and people jump on and share their story. And it's just this one big, complaining party that's happening in the Facebook group. And if you're watching this, obviously, you're gonna get a little influenced as well. So if you see something like that, I would just suggest to leave the group, because your focus, once again, is very, very important. All right, habit number 3 is you want to prioritize like a CEO. So I used to do a lot more things myself in my KDP business. And what happened is that I was completely overwhelmed. I basically had a never-ending task of things to do just to keep up. And after I complete one task, there was a new one that popped up, right? And I complete this one and there's another one that I had to get on. And it was very, very overwhelming. And because I was so overwhelmed with all the things that I had to do, I would resort to just starting and, just doing the easy ones. Like, before I do this big, overwhelming task that I am, really dreading to do, let me go and check my email inbox and let me go and clean it up. Right? So at least I feel like I'm productive because I'm cleaning up my emails, although it's not going to make me any money, right? At least, again, I'm feeling productive. And that was me basically trying to avoid doing this big overwhelming task that if I actually push through it, I would make so much money, right? Because this is the main thing that's going to move the needle forward. But a big reason why I was overwhelmed and I didn't want to work on this big task is because I had so much other little tasks and, so many tasks in general stacked up because I was trying to do everything myself. So I needed a better system to organize all the tasks on what mattered the most. So you can do this with many softwares. There's an example on Asana. Asana is one of the free project management tool out there. You can just Google it. But essentially, you can create a priority board or a task board, right? And you can categorize it in different things. Okay, so this is simple, right? To do, in progress, so you're doing it, and then you're done. So once you start the task, you move it into the progress, and once you're done, you move it into the done folder, which is very easy. However, from there, you can further label it like this one over here, right? Income drivers. So this means that you actually will make more money if you do this task, right? So income drivers are high priority. But there's also urgent, right? So maybe it's not an income driver, but there are some urgent tasks that you have to do. So you can label it as such, so you know which one to focus on first. And then there are other tasks like the maintenance task. So it's not gonna make you much money, but it is something that you should do. So maybe you should do it after all the income drivers and, urgent tasks are done, right? So there are different ways to label it. This is just an example, but visually what you can do is to start categorizing each task and organize it into a board, which will make it a lot simpler for you to work on it. So you can sort tasks into income drivers, optimization, and maintenance category. And this is a cool rule that you can set up where each day you have to tackle at least one income driver. And you want to finish it before you move on to, let's say, optimization or maintenance. So as an example, sorting your emails is not an income driver. It's not going to make you money, right? Sorting your emails is more a maintenance kind of task. It's the lowest in the priority. But a lot of times, like me, people use sorting emails or these maintenance tasks as a procrastination method to not actually do the income drivers because they're lazy or they're scared of the task or whatever. So what you can do is to set a rule. You will do at least one income driver task per day. And then once you finish that and your brain is a mush and you're tired, but you still want to work and do something, then you can go and work on your optimization, your maintenance task. Now you can go and sort emails at the end of the day and you wouldn't feel so bad after, right, doing it. So that's one trick that you can do. And this is how you can track progress visually, right, and see what really grows your royalties. So kind of going into the technical side of exactly how you would set up this board, you can set up 3 columns: the to-do board, in progress board, and done board. And you can add cards for each key book task, like, one card for niche selection, outline, book covers, and more. And you want to break big steps into simple actions. So don't just say, I'm going to work on KDP again, right? Your task should not be work on KDP. It should be a lot more specific. So that's what I mean is break it into smaller actions, like schedule launch emails to the reader list for this book, right? Daily affirmations journal, or complete keyword research for gratitude journal. So be very specific and only move 1 to 2 tasks into progress at a time. So this is key. It kind of ties into what we talked about in habit number 1 is you should not be doing multiple tasks at the same time, right? Do one, finish it, and then move on. So if you have more than 2 tasks in the progress column over here, then you got a problem. Again, you're shuffling all over the place, right? So don't do that. And every time you move a task into the done column, you completed it, then celebrate it, right? This is actually good for, training your brain to enjoy completing tasks, enjoy working. If you actually celebrate the completion of the task, because your brain will start associating that when you actually finish a task, like do work, then you will get some sort of reward. And you can choose what reward you want to give yourself. Like, if you like sweet stuff, you can have like a cookie or something, maybe not do it all the time because you gain weight, but you can start doing something like that so that your brain starts associating work or completing work with pleasure. Then eventually you'll get to a point where, you're just chilling and you're like, oh my God, I want to work. It actually happens. Just like how people who hate exercising in the beginning, like me, I used to be fat, right? And I hated exercising when I was small, but I started working out and I started feeling good. I started looking good. And over time, my brain went from associating exercise with pain, right? Before I thought, oh, exercising is painful. That's what my brain thought. But later on, I started associating exercise with pleasure. So now I want to exercise because I like how I feel after. I like how I look after, right? And you can do the exact same thing with work. So a couple more tips over here. You want to put high earning tasks at the top of your to-do list. So these are the income drivers. You can use color labels to sort urgent, important, or delegate tasks. Delegate is essentially outsourcing, right? You want to plan your deep work blocks around income driver actions. So when you set like the focus blocks, you want to preferably be working on the income driver actions, and you want to outsource or delay low impact work and focus on what grows royalties. So if you got a bunch of tasks that are income drivers, and if you got a bunch of tasks that are not income drivers, obviously focus on the income drivers if you want to make the most amount of money the quickest. So this board really helps because you're physically seeing progress, right? Not just a generic to-do list, but you're actually seeing, tasks being completed and deleted, which gives you a little, dopamine hit in your brain. And again, you start associating pleasure from the work that you do, which is honestly key for enjoying your work. But anyways, those were the top 3 habits that really helped me, and it's something that I'm still working on as well. Like some days I struggle as well, right? So, we're all human, but these are definitely something that we should work on and always try to improve. So one last thing is, if you're serious about building your Amazon KDP business and really taking it to the next level, then we do offer a complete Amazon KDP coaching program. I am obviously biased, but I think it's the best KDP program in the market. And if you look at the Trustpilot reviews, the review rating do seem to reflect what I said, because we have the highest average rating out of all the KDP coaching programs out there. But if you do want to learn more about it, then it's the first link in the description. Takes you to a page like this. You can apply for a free strategy call. It's about 30 minutes. You can talk to one of our coaches and see if this program is a good fit for you. With that being said, hope you enjoyed this video. If you actually made it to the end for this habit video, then I do respect you for doing so, because again, not a lot of people will probably watch this video. So if you made it to the end, then comment habits so that I can see that, or any other comment that you want to make. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.